The Knicks needed a bounce back game after an embarrassing loss to the Magic, and boy, did they get one. A 112-98 win over the Raptors that would have been like 12 points more than that if not for garbage time. So they really crushed in this one. We're talking about it next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site, The Strickland, which you can find at strict.land, and he's Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. And today, this show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making us a part of your daily routine. Make sure you subscribe wherever it is that you consume podcasts. Hit that notification bell on YouTube or the auto download function on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. So we're here for you guys 5 or sometimes more days per week. This week maybe might top out at 7. Who knows? We'll see as the week goes on. But you know, no matter what, we're here for you guys all the time. And your favorite podcast, in case it's not enough getting 5 to 7 episodes a week, now has a newsletter. So introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily Newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. And on today's show, we will be talking about a little bit of everything with this game. Big win for the Knicks that they desperately needed. We were very grumpy after their last loss, and they must have hurt us because they changed some things and things looked a lot better. Of course, you get Karl-Anthony Towns back. OG Anunoby goes into destroy Raptors mode like he does whenever the Knicks face the Raptors. So we're going to talk about that first. Talk about Mikal Bridges, still pretty cold, if not colder than ever in this game, unfortunately. And Landry Shamet's best game, which is a big development. Over 20 minutes for this guy, and he looked very comfortable in this one. I think he's really starting to find his legs with the Knicks. But Gavin, before that, we had OG Anunoby go crazy and Karl-Anthony Towns come back and just absolutely light up the Raptors in a very similar way to what we said like in the previous game, like he probably would have done to the Magic. Just came out against the Raptors, who didn't have anyone that could contain him, and just absolutely destroyed them. But I think I actually want to go to OG Anunoby first, who had 27 points, 8 of 13 shooting, 4 of 6 from 3. I'm lucky enough to work in a place with a lot of technology in it. There are these new like glasses. One is experimental from Meta right now. There's another one that's from Snapchat. They're like AR glasses, you know, and they let you like see things differently in real time or whatever. I'm kind of wondering if we can get some rec specs, you know, like the little thing behind them, and give those to OG, the Snapchat ones maybe, and then like use live Snapchat filters to make it look like every team is the Toronto Raptors, because that seems to be the thing that really gets OG going lately.
Yeah, and the Raptors weren't even wearing red jerseys. They were wearing purple. So OG was seeing purple tonight. It was his first really not only like shooting well, but really aggressive game since the last time they played the Raptors. Obviously had a good first 3 quarters against the Thunder, but this is the best he's played in a minute. 8 of 13 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3, 7 of 8 from the foul line, 27 points. And if you needed anything else, he kind of big boyed RJ Barrett at the end of the game, blocking him once, stripping him once in transition, like shutting him down at the rim another time. And that was in the midst of the Knicks going on a 10-0 run that took it from 91-81 to 101-81, excuse me, and essentially made it a foregone conclusion that the bench and the rookies were going to get their ceremonial 2 minutes that Tom Thibodeau is so generous to gift them at the end of the game.
But that ended a 15-0 run, by the way. I think that was a 15-0 run by the time all was said and done.
Yeah. So that was the game right there. And I thought OG came out in like first possession or two again, looked a little lethargic, and I was just sort of like, all right, what's going on with this guy? Like Clyde, sorry, it wasn't Clyde. It was a tweet that I saw, and someone was like, yeah, it was James Edwards, was like, this is the first time OG's played this many games in this many minutes, which is a point that I've been driving home a lot. I'm like, all right, maybe he's just not built to handle this kind of load with how hard he plays. And then from there, he just started cooking, like hit a quick trigger corner three that Shax pointed out on Twitter was the Dante play where Brunson would just whip it into the corner and then take advantage of Dante having an ultra quick release. And that just kind of let you know just how decisively he shot the ball, that he was feeling pretty confident tonight. Got another three off a baseline out of bounds play. I love Tibbs drawing that up for him, just kind of saying, hey, we want you to hunt shots. Clearly the same was true for Mikal Bridges. The results were just very different, which we'll get into a little bit later. Had another huge three that ended a 8-0 Raptors run when they were getting back into it in the first half. That was big. Just a nasty at one point, like for whatever reason, I don't know why, maybe it's because he replaced him in the starting lineup after he was traded. He loves bullying Grady Dick specifically, just had him sealed and then did like close to a 180 dunk. That was just nasty. It was one of his better jams of the entire season. Bulldozed through RJ at one point to get to the line, spun off IQ to get to a jam. So he just killed the former Knicks throughout this game, which is all you could really ask for. And I'm happy to see him very confident, I would presume, heading into that Thunder game tomorrow.
Yeah, that IQ one definitely stood out to me too. I mean, those are the sort of plays that we've been asking for, right? That it sort of disappeared in the last few games where, I mean, you've been very good at noting this throughout the season, like that seal that he can create on someone. Like he's a large player,
Yeah.
he's not going to necessarily get you 15 rebounds in a game or something, but I mean, he is large, he's strong. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, I guess I was thinking about this a little bit, like just because of the fact they're facing the Raptors and that's the team that drafted him. But when he came into the league, I mean, he was a string bean. He was built like Kevin Durant-esque, when he came into the NBA, like just very wiry muscle. And I mean, he's definitely developed into a very different dude than Kevin Durant at this point. Like just the size on him, like the fact that he has put on the amount of muscle and everything that he has, the fact that he doesn't use it more, it makes it frustrating in some games. And so, for as much as we had to complain about the last couple games, it was nice to see a game where he got it back in this one. And, hopefully that's something that he can carry over to this Thunder game on Friday, because, I think that there were some opportunity. I mean, look, they're a team that is bigger at their best. They can throw a sort of bigger lineup at you, but they're not huge.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
think
the whole first half of that game, right? It was Mikal and OG like posting and feasting, and especially if they're going to put Jalen on KAT and Isaiah on Josh, like the wings should go to work.
Yeah, exactly. I like if it's Jalen Williams on KAT again, I hope that there's just post ups galore.
Yeah,
in that game from all three of those guys, from OG, from KAT, and from Mikal potentially. So we'll see what they end up doing, but that was I think the biggest development. I mean, other than just making the threes too, but that's literally just as simple as the ball needs to go in the hoop, like, and he looked comfortable shooting them. That's good. I guess it is still good to see. I mean, that he's kind of rebounded a little bit. I do think that hard fall against OKC on Friday did kind of maybe hamper him for the last two games a little bit. Even if he was still playing, like I can imagine that was probably kind of a gnarly like bruise on his elbow or something that came out of that, because he just landed directly on that surgically repaired elbow in that game. So good to see that they went back in this one. Hopefully he's able to carry that over to the next game. And then I think we should probably talk about KAT as well, who had just a phenomenal game. KAT ended up with he and OG tied for team high. So 27 points, 13 boards for KAT, 2 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, just a really good defensive game as well from him. Just kind of a do-it-all game. 9 of 14 shooting, 3 of 3 from 3, 6 of 6 from the free throw line. Like, I truly do not know what more could be asked of him in this one, because this was as good of a game as we've seen KAT play, as efficient of a game as we've seen him play, and certainly as impactful, because I think this team has really gotten used to the idea of playing with a center that can shoot the ball. And I think that we kind of saw in the last game, like they kind of got caught with their pants down a little bit. Like they didn't know what to do. And it seemed like offense was really hard to come by. And certainly, I mean, the drop off from KAT to Jericho Sims is like falling off a mountain. So to go from like maybe a top, I don't even think maybe a top 3 offensive big in the league, certainly a top 3 offensive center in the league, to then someone who has a hard time catching the ball sometimes. It definitely showed during that Magic game. Doesn't excuse the rest of the lack of effort and everything, but it was just obvious the effect that was felt by getting KAT back in this game. I think from the start all the way through the finish, like he was able to just kind of keep the Knicks cruising, keep the Raptors at arm's length, and get the Knicks what they needed in this game.
Yeah, I do think the single funniest moment, if you're into dark humor, of the game was when he stripped Pirtle and then took it coast to coast, laid it over him. Great play. That was his a 5-for-5 start for him. And immediately after, Clyde goes, "What knee injury?" And the camera cuts to KAT, who's just struggling to stand up. And I could hear the Curb Your Enthusiasm music playing in the background. But KAT, there were a couple of times where I was like, all right, just take him out, man, because he was limping, he was holding his knee, he was grimacing, and it didn't look good. But give him credit. Like, as we said all year long, like we questioned, or you didn't, I more so me, questioned his toughness coming in, and he's been right there with Josh and Jalen and basically the whole starting lineup for the toughest Nick on the team this year. Putting up a great stat from Tyler Murray, who did fantastic on the broadcast tonight. 25, 14, and 3. First guy to hit those numbers if he finishes the season at those averages since Kareem, which is crazy. I do think it's important to note that Jokic is at 31, 13, and 9. So it's a little arbitrary. It's a little bit Thad Young graphic, but I thought that was a cool number. And I thought he did a really nice job early playing off of Jalen, like, because they were just hard, or not even hard doubling Jalen, but kind of soft doubling Jalen every time he got the basketball. And KAT just kind of would do these delayed rolls and get all the way to the rim, then on the ball, like blowing by Pirtle for a dunk, 26-foot trail 3, like cook Scotty Barnes in ISO, like, and he just is automatic now. 5 to 9 feet. I don't know if this is current. This is as of 2 games ago. He's leading the NBA over the previous 10 games, shooting 69% from 5 to 9 feet and making the most in the league in that stretch. So he's just been ridiculous. And to your point, the defense, outside of one play where he literally ran off the screen trying to get a steal, I thought his defense, like very similar to the Thunder game, was really good. He had 4 stocks just in the first half of this one and a nasty block on Quickly that they had to challenge because it looked so much like a goaltend.
Yeah, for sure. Great game for KAT. Definitely needed him back. And I think a guy that the Knicks do need to come back and start playing the way that he was in December is Mikal Bridges. He had a little bit of a rough one in this game. So we're going to get into that in the next segment. Maybe talk about Jalen Brunson's night a little bit as well before talking about some of the bench guys. I thought Precious Achiuwa had a pretty good game. Landry Shamet, definitely his best game as a Knick so far, even if the 3 isn't coming around. So lots still to talk about in just a moment. But first, we want to let you know about our friends over at Game Time. And I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. And one of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement were unforgettable. Gavin's brought up a few times, Childish Gambino concert. Lucky enough to get to one of the dates before he canceled like the whole tour. So you got the merch and everything to prove it. It was great. And now Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And recently, I was looking for tickets to an upcoming Knicks game using the Game Time app. And with Game Time Picks, I found amazing deals and could even see the view from my seat before buying. Gotta love those garden views. The super deal was particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. My personal favorite Game Time feature. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
And today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at RocketRx. If you're ready to boost your confidence and take control in the bedroom, RocketRx has the solution. Imagine feeling more prepared and performing at your best. RocketRx makes it simple and stress-free. RocketRx offers FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction at a lower cost than branded alternatives. No more uncomfortable doctor visits or pharmacy trips. Everything is delivered straight to your door in discreet plain packaging. With Rocket RX, you'll get trusted care from a real U.S. clinical team. Complete a quick 100% online consultation, and you can get your free prescription today. Visit rocketrx.com to get started. Now it only takes 2 minutes. Right now, our listeners can get 40% off your first order when you use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's rocketrx.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 40% off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. Rocket RX, better sex made simple. All right, we are going to hit RJ Barrett, or not RJ Barrett. Maybe we'll talk about RJ Barrett. That was a throwback to 2 years ago. I should check for a small concussion, maybe. We're going to hit Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson, who I thought, even though Brunson had a bad night statistically, I thought his playmaking in the first half was exceptional, really good. Josh Hart, season high. Also, Tyler Murray stat, good pulls, season high. 6 offensive rebounds, 9 of 14, 21 points, throwing 7 assists for good measure. He was awesome. But part of the reason Jalen Brunson's assist numbers were so low, despite what I would call great playmaking, is because about 4 or 5 times he either directly or via hockey assist set up Mikal Bridges for a completely wide open 3, Alex. And Mikal over and over again let his buddy down, could not hit a shot. It was a throwback to bad early season Mikal, where I was doing the 7-minute rants to start episodes, I think, to that Hornets game where it seemed like he didn't even want to touch the basketball. Finished 4 for 18, 2 for 11 from 3, no free throws, just 3 rebounds, did have 3 assists, did have a steal, had 1 nice transition dunk where Scotty Barnes chased him and he was able to throw it in, but just a really, really down night for Mikal. And it continues a long stretch of poor shooting for him now. 13 of his last 55 from 3, right around 20%. Not what you want. Hoping he can turn it around against the Thunder. That feels like it is a lot to ask. To be fair, his mid-range game and his interior game have been pretty consistent for the most part, but the three-pointer, again, looks a little bit broken. The whole first half, he was short, and it was kind of the same story as earlier in the year where it would look like he would go up for a shot, and then his momentum would just stop, and then he would shoot it, and it was short over and over. And then I thought in the second half, he almost overcompensated, and he was just kind of chucking them up. Everything was long. I know that's not incredibly deep analysis, but it was just very reminiscent of early season Mikal. And this was one of those nights, because this hasn't been an issue throughout this cold stretch, where I'm like, all right, you're not shooting well. Can you bring anything else? Can you get to the line 6 or 7 times? Can you create for others? Can you get to your mid range? And the answer tonight, at least, was not really.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is that, he wasn't trying anything else either. It just seemed like there was very little interest in, like you said, like just playing the game of basketball tonight on the offensive end in some ways. Like, I can get trying to get the 3-point shot going, but at a certain point, it would have been nice if I feel like in recent games, he's been able to still find some offense by putting it on the floor, driving inside, getting aggressive in that way, seeking contact some games, like few and far between, but like every once in a while, he just has a game where he like gets angry, I guess, and starts driving in. And, we've seen a couple times this year where he'll do the bicep flex on someone, which just seems comical. He's not a particularly jacked up dude, but whatever gets him going, I don't know where that was in this game. Probably the only guy, like you said, because Brunson, at least on paper, had sort of a down game in this one, but still did plenty of good things. And, realistically, if Mikal converted some of those shots, Brunson probably has a double-double in this game of, 13 points and 11 assists or something. So disappointing to see that Mikal couldn't ride the wave that everybody else was riding. I don't know, maybe you give him the Snapchat spectacles and make everybody look like San Antonio Spurs for the rest of the year for him. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but it is kind of frustrating that on a night-to-night basis, it seems so volatile which version of Mikal Bridges you get, whether it's the version that's willing to go full tilt and drive in. And we thought we were starting to see that more often recently, where like, okay, even if the three's not going in, the defense is there, the killer instinct is clearly there. Like he looks like he wants to get inside and, challenge that way, even if the 3-point shot isn't going. And in this one, he just seemed more content to just keep getting threes up. I will say towards the end of the game, was noted on the broadcast, like did make 1 3 down the stretch of the game. So maybe that gets him going. That one looked clean. The other ones did not look super clean. He looked very, very much, as one of my favorite Clydeisms, like he was aiming it, like he was thinking about the shot rather than just shooting. on a lot of those threes tonight. So that does happen to even the best shooters. It's like Jalen Brunson's in the midst of a stretch right now too, where it seems like he's thinking real hard about every three and needs to just really see a number of them go in. So hopefully for both their cases that ends up happening soon. But yeah, I mean, I am with you. I think Brunson had a pretty solid game otherwise, other than the scoring, which was still a little bit down in this one.
Yeah, I thought he was like, it's so weird to look at the box score because it just looks like he had a bad game. And I guess scoring wise, he never really got into rhythm. But Toronto was just, I said it earlier, but they were going all out to try to take him out of this game. Like there were two guys on him pretty much the whole first half. And I thought like sometimes you see Jalen and a lot to in Jalen's defense, a lot of times his work where he gets that high trap near half court and he'll just drag it out, get it to Josh, and they'll play 4-on-3. I loved how aggressive he was. And he said it was like a running back seeing two linebackers coming at him and just saying, all right, I'm going to field 25 yards long this way. I'm just going to beat you to the corner. And over again, he would just attack Pirtle's outside foot and beat the double team. And it would just break the Raptors defense in half. Like it was very simple basketball, but at the same time, it was brilliant basketball. And he was essentially accounting for three defenders every play because he'd beat the double, draw another guy, and then start off a swing sequence that the Knicks over and over again seemed to get layups out of. He had one of his better passes of the year, which of course did not turn into assists, where he was doubled and it was kind of Patrick Mahomesy, like lefty sidearm sling through traffic to a cutting Mikal. Like this actually was for a bucket. And then Mikal hit hard in the corner for a three. I thought his defense was really good in this game. And maybe we should have opened with this, but that was kind of the story for the Knicks, was that I thought all five starters like played their butts off defensively. Like I mentioned OG shutting down RJ. I mentioned KAT, the four stocks in the first half, but I thought Brunson was flying around on D in a way I haven't seen all year. Like there was one play where I think it was Jamal Shed got totally wide open under the rim and Brunson spotted it and just went completely off his man to strip him. Like had another play where, what did he do? Where he shut down RJ? I can't remember the other one, but it was Dick. He stripped Dick. That sounds weird. Anyways, he had a really good game, even despite the numbers.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I don't have too much to add on the Brunson front. I think it was a good game for him. And I think we could probably move on to the bench. So in just a moment, we'll talk about Landry Shamet, talk about Precious Achiuwa maybe a little bit. Another guy who got to face his former team and had, I would say, a pretty solid game against them as well. And whatever other final housekeeping to end the show off. So we'll get into that in just a moment.
But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Ultimate College Basketball HC. I want to take a moment to introduce you to a brand new mobile game that I'm really excited about, Ultimate College Basketball HC. If you've ever dreamed of being a college basketball head coach, this is your chance to step into those shoes. In Ultimate College Basketball HC, you control every detail of your program, from recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps, handling NIL deals, and managing scholarships. It's all in your hands. And when you come to game time, you get to drop offensive plays and set your strategy. That the way you play won't just affect the current season, it will shape the future of your school's basketball program. It's a game that lets you feel the full weight of what it means to be a head coach and lead your team to glory. Alex, if people out there have the same specific pathology you and I have, that we kind of think we'd be better coaches than the coach, better GMs than the GMs, and you don't have access to doing a 5-day-a-week podcast for a living, well, boy, this is the game for you. So here's a special offer for Locked On NBA listeners. Use promo code LOCKEDONCBB, all caps, inside the game store to get a free boost for your program. It's the perfect way to kickstart your coaching career. To download Ultimate College Basketball HC, just visit ultimate-cbb.com or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate College Basketball HC, begin your coaching legacy today. All right, we're gonna get into Landry Shamet. I want to note real quick before we do. I mentioned him quickly, but I feel like he deserves more than a second. Josh Hart, Alex, I thought was exceptional, and I thought him and Brunson coming out of that Magic game, they said, "Hey, we have to be better." Brunson had a comment to the effect of, someone asked him, "Are you guys tired?" He said, "We don't say that here," and like that could be for show. It was certainly for show after the Bulls game because the Magic game was even worse. It was not for show after the Magic game though, because they both really brought the intensity, and I think Josh getting a season high in offensive rebounds like summed that up pretty well. Like he was not playing to lose. I thought I don't know what the Knicks recovery staff did with him the last 2 days, but credit to them. Like he looked more explosive than he has in a while. Just getting to the rim, because over and over again, the Raptors were leaving it big on him. And he was just, I mean, he got RJ too at one point for a layup, but just toasting the bigs for a layup, toasted Scotty Barnes to get an assist to OG to beat the shot clock buzzer. Like his drive game was just as good as it's looked in the last month or so to me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to highlight. I mean, I think that, he that was his bread and butter in this game. I mean, had it going from 3 as well, which you love to see with, 2 from 5 from there, hit 1 from each corner, but being able to get inside and, finish at that level, went to the reverse at one point that stood out to me. That was a really nice one. And, just in general, back to the Josh Hart we know and love. I mean, he's the one guy that no matter what happens with everybody else, you kind of feel like you can always count on Josh Hart. And yet in the last game, along with everybody, he just really didn't have it going.
Which is crazy because he still had 16 rebounds and 10 assists, but I think no field goals in that game. So
yeah,
that's
a really
not
comical double. Yeah,
yeah,
crazy
lazy game. Yeah.
But yeah, at any rate, good to see him, kind of find himself again, even hit a couple mid-range shots, did his like channeling Kobe thing, hit a couple middies. So that's always good too. But yeah, I thought it was a fantastic game for him too. But also a fantastic game for Landry Shamet, who ended pretty modest stat line. If you're just looking at it and you didn't watch the game, you'd be like, why are you guys talking so much about Landry Shamet? But 8 points, 2 boards, 1 assist in this game, 4 of 8 shooting, 0 of 3 from 3. Gavin, I think this guy is 1 3 for 4 3-point shooting game away from cementing himself as like a for sure 20-minute per game bench player at this point. I think he's doing everything right. The thing that I love about what's going on with Shamet is less the offense and more the defense. And it's really surprised me, like just how disruptive he can be on the defensive end. How well he's keeping his man in front of him, hit the active hands, getting hands in the lane and poking balls away. Just catching offensive players sleeping a lot and, poking the ball away from them. I've really liked that probably the most of anything with him. And that was on display in this game, but also, a little bit of a sneaky verticality to his game on offense too, which I wasn't expecting. Like, not so much that I think he's going to get up there and, climb the ladder and dunk it over somebody at any given point. But, the ability to like start his jump, well outside the key and end up at layup range has kind of impressed me. Like, he doesn't have to get like all the way up to the hoop to be able to, get himself in for a layup. And that springiness, I think, was on display in this game and was really enjoyable for me to watch. It ends with 21 minutes and 16 seconds in this game, which I think is his season high so far. I would be surprised if there was a game where he had played more than that. But I think that's going to start being the norm sooner than later. Like if Tibbs is going to seriously consider, and I mean, jury's out on if he is, like, but if he's going to seriously consider playing Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby a little less, so we run into less scenarios like we did this past week, where they just look completely dead on their feet after, a stretch of 3 games and 4 nights or whatever. I think Landry Shamet is the piece that's going to allow that to happen, even more so than like a healthy Deuce McBride or anyone like that. I think a healthy Deuce McBride helps Jalen Brunson out a lot, maybe helps Josh Hart out a little bit as far as minutes. But if you're talking about guys that can, or a guy that can give the 2 highest minute wings on the team, okay, that's a lie. Josh Hart gets more than OG Anunoby, but it feels like OG, to your point, because of his history and everything, this feels monumental for him this year, the amount of minutes and everything he's playing. I think Shamet could be that guy. I've really been impressed with everything he's brought so far.
Yeah, he just his ability to play off 2 feet. It's very similar to the Villanova guys, which makes sense because he comes from that Greg Marshall school at Wichita State, or School of Learning, I should say, at Wichita State. And Greg Marshall, allegedly major abuser, but very, very good basketball coach. And we see it in Fred VanVleet. We saw it in Knicks legends, Ron Baker and Karl-Anthony early. And now with Shamet, like my favorite play of the night was this was straight up a Brunson move. Like he went to a step back, defender kind of bit on it, and then he just did a pump fake, step under, and then just like a double pump layup. It was shocking because he just has not really shown that yet on the Knicks. To your point, that strip steal he had led to the KAT transition 3. One of my favorite defensive plays of the night was when KAT fell down after that aforementioned layup on Pirtle and was stuck on the other end. And Pirtle should have had a layup as he just ran the floor. And Shamet from behind, like it reminded me of the best of Dante DiVincenzo. I know that's your comp for him a lot of the time. A very poor man's Dante DiVincenzo, but he just rose up behind Pirtle and got just enough to strip the basketball off his leg. And it was just a high effort play that saved a bucket. And again, felt like last year's Knicks. So that was cool. And he was the beneficiary on my favorite passing sequence of the entire game, where Brunson got doubled way up top, hit Mikal on the wing. Mikal then had a defender in front of him, so lofted it over to Precious. Defender steps up to Precious. Shamet perfectly timed baseline cut. Precious Achiuwa, one of the better passes he's probably thrown in his life. Hit Shamet baseline, up and under layup. That was one of 3 layups he's gotten all game. Had another hustle play where he tipped a rebound out of someone's hands to Precious for a layup. Like, it was just a very Knicks role player game. And that was a soup for the soul, Alex, after we've just gotten nothing from the bench the last few games. To your point, I do think a little bit of this was playing against the Raptors and him having the confidence of like, all right, I'm on a pretty equivalent talent level as these guys, versus Oklahoma City, where he can play hard and he can play well, and the impact is just a little bit more negligible because the other team is better. But to your point, he's just 3 for 13 from 3 so far. He's missed his last 9. Like, he is a consistent career 38% 3-point shooter. So that should bounce back, and I think that'll even out the rest of his game and make everything else just a bit easier for him.
Yeah, I think he's one like 3 for 4, 4 for 5 3-point shooting game away from like completely captivating the Garden, from completely locking down this role. Sort of similar to what happened with Dante last year, actually. I mean, if we want to keep that comp going, like,
sure.
You know, I think he needed a little while to get his feet wet, and then, you know, kind of just snatched a roll, started hitting those shots, and then with more volume, it just came and you know, happened for him. And I think that's going to happen for Shamet eventually. I mean, he's not coming back from something small. He had a dislocated shoulder. There's no doubt that, even if I'm struggling to remember, it was his offhand, correct? That he separated.
So. I'm not 100% sure, but I think
so. Even on your guide hand though, that still affects your motion a little bit. You still have to get that back. And, you know, for an elite 3-point shooter, like that's the thing that's probably going to come around last, but everything else is coming along just fine. And he's certainly not playing tentative or like he's trying to avoid contact to that previously injured shoulder or anything either, which is great. I think he's giving it all out basically every minute he's on the floor right now, and definitely understands the way to Tibbs' heart, which is clear by the fact that he's getting the minutes that I think he deserves, which is great. Another guy who did pretty well in this game, 15 minutes for Precious Achiuwa, 6 points, 4 boards. Maybe would have had more minutes if not for the fact that Tibbs started garbage time a little early, with Jericho Sims coming in with about 4 minutes to go for KAT. So that could have been potentially almost a 20-minute game for Precious as well, if he had gotten those minutes instead. But I thought it was a pretty good one for him. You know, I think that the rim protection was there a little bit, and with a block in this one. The rebounding looked solid. I mean, again, maybe just a facing former team bump here, but I thought the finishing looked pretty nice. He put a really good move on I think he actually missed the one that I'm thinking of, but who's it? He put a really good move on someone at one point and got a nice little floater or like hook shot for himself, and it rimmed out. But like, I'm liking the shot selection. Had a really nice like lefty finish around
Pirtle. Yeah. If I'm thinking of the same one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So had a nice and one finish and with his left hand and everything else later in the game, which was great. Just all in all, I think a good game from Precious. I think he's starting to find himself a little bit. You know, we've talked a lot about how the bench really needs to kind of like step up here and start doing more so that the starters don't have to play as much. And I think Achiuwa, Shamet, Payne to a degree. You know, I mean, he had a high plus minus in this game. I don't think he did anything poor, which is good in this game. You know, so it was a very safe game for Cameron Payne. Once you get Deuce back, like I do think we're looking at a 9-man rotation here. And I hope that that's what we see pretty much immediately from Tibbs as soon as Deuce is ready to suit up and ready to contribute again, because I think that'll go a long way towards not just giving the Knicks like more rest, but also just giving them more varied looks. Like I think these guys do offer a lot to this team, and we're also probably pretty close to Mitchell Robinson coming back, so potentially a 10-man rotation if things shake out right, or maybe Precious just gets relegated to the bench. I don't know, or maybe Mitch does. I don't know what's going to end up happening there, but we'll see when we get there. But I think things are looking up for this bench right now. Like the guys that are there right now playing well, the guys that should be coming in soon, we know should play well. So we could be headed towards potentially a 9-10 man rotation soon. And that would be a very welcome thing to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm curious I wonder if Tibbs leans into Deuce playing once he gets acclimated back for a few games closer to 30 minutes and maybe Campaign goes out of the rotation. I think a lot of the other guys are window dressing because I don't know how much they'll play in the playoffs. Like I think Precious will play a bit and I think Shamet will play a bit. I don't think Campaign, if everyone's healthy, will be in the playoff rotation. My greatest priority is Deuce misses his 5th straight game, and it just seems like a case of pain tolerance right now. And like when he's feeling good enough to go is what I understand of the injury based on what the beat reporters have said. The single biggest thing that could happen for the Knicks bench is one, Deuce McBride gets going, 2, Mitchell Robinson gets healthy. I think we're about a month out on the latter of those. So Deuce playing well would give them a boost. But to your point, I wrote down vintage Precious Achiuwa in my notes, which is a crazy concept for someone who's been here for a year. But I think he's pretty consistently been a step down this season of what he was last season. And I thought tonight he looked like himself. So hopefully that continues. Big one coming up tomorrow. We will have the preview with Rylan Stiles of Locked on Thunder. That'll be a lot of fun. And then we should have the post-game pod for you guys on Saturday, assuming the Knicks pull that out or said the very least a competitive game. But until then, he's Alex. I'm Gavin. We will talk to you very, very soon on Locked on Knicks.